This is a Hollywood Outsider After Hours, your once or twice a month podcast where we hoes let our hair down, slip into something a little more comfortable, and talk about geek stuff that doesn't normally fit in the regular hoe show. My name is Justin McCumber, aka my own biggest fan, and joining me today is Aaron Peterson, aka my pale-faced brother from another mother. How are things doing, man?
Good. I can edit that out. I'm doing good.
Very good.
Fix it in post.
That worked out great. Go ahead.
Yeah, Aaron, he fixes a lot of stuff in post that on my show. I'm like, fuck it, let's just keep going.
Maybe it'll still be in there.
I ain't got time for that.
We'll find out when it airs.
Yeah. Also joining us is a guy that most of you probably don't know, but if you listen to my other podcast, The Dead Robot Society, then you know him all too well. Paul Cooley, a.k.a. Grumpy Cat. Paul, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. My question is, when the hell did I get named Grumpy Cat? That sounds more like a Terry Mixon or Matt Wallace thing.
Well, I think if you listen to The Dead Robot Society, why you would be called Grumpy Cat
Shameless
should be
plug.
all too apparent.
Shameless plug.
It's Monday, it's Tuesday. Wind blows. Kobe, Kendall Moby.
Justin has an obsession with that frickin' cat.
Don't get me started.
I don't get. Somebody someday needs to explain how this fucking cat got so popular.
It's so cute.
It's just like the meanest looking cat in the universe, and at the same time, it is very, very cute. It is just absolutely ridiculous.
It's so grumpy. It's cute. Yeah, I'm sure it's a happy-go-lucky cat. It's just stuck, like Paul, with that face.
I don't look like that.
No, you don't look like that. You just have your own face you have to deal with.
That's the beauty of radio. You can be as handsome as you want to be.
That's right.
Are you kidding?
That's
I'm
right.
podcasting naked.
You think it's funny? I'm actually doing that right now.
I've thought about starting a Code Naked group, but I figured nobody wants to see that. So
No,
When you guys do your thing, are you in the same room or are you doing it Skype?
no.
We're
He lives in Houston, whereas I live
gotcha.
up here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
See,
actually, I live in north Houston, and Terry lives in south Houston.
Right.
So
I know the difference. That's pretty far, actually. So
Clear Lake, the Woodlands, and that Dallas place.
if you could give your home address, that'd be great. People listen and love that stuff.
Hey, man,
Paul's address is.
I've had my address hacked. I had when I was finishing Closet Treats, somebody sent me a bottle of scotch, Troy Tanzer, based on some clues that I had given in Closet Treats. He basically hacked my address.
Wow.
And I ended up with a bottle of scotch out of it. It was pretty funny. A little creepy too.
That's a little creepy. I mean, it's great. You got a bottle of scotch, but also, yeah, creepy. Yeah.
Yeah, the scotch wasn't that good.
I don't hide my address. I mean, people who want me to sign their books or something, I don't have a P.O. box, so I really have no other address to give them but mine. If they love me so much they want to come stalk me, okay.
You say that now, man.
Yeah, well, true. I
say that now.
Before the stalking begins.
But I'm pretty sure this is admissible in court. So I'm telling you, I don't want it. Paul doesn't want it. Justin, you can do whatever
prank
you
caller,
want.
prank caller. A little Pulp Fiction
boy.
reference for you guys. All right, since Paul's on, I thought this episode we tackle a topic that I know is close to his, as well as Aaron's heart. Both of you guys are really into horror, so let's cut into this bitch. Lately, it seems that horror movies have been taken over by the found footage format. You know, it's kind of started with the Blair Witch, and it's just gotten stronger and more prevalent. Why do you think that horror films have taken that turn, and does it work for you guys?
It's cheap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
It's
agree.
goddamn cheap. You can roll out. I mean, look at the fucking movie VHS, man. Have you seen this hunk of shit?
Oh, we all
We reviewed it.
we watched it together. We all watched it together. That was our buddy film.
Oh, gotcha. Well, I mean, you think about that. You can splice together several different scenes in no time at all with very, very, cheap film equipment, and do some good stuff post-production and make sometimes a watchable film out of it. It's very, very easy to do something like that. It was exactly why the Blair Witch worked in so many ways. But you watch like the Chernobyl Diaries or, what is that flick? Grave Encounters.
Oh, so but that 1 and 2 are both terrible.
Yeah, they weren't very good.
I actually liked number 1. believe it or not. But then again, I've been told my taste in anything is pretty bad. So, I mean, I enjoyed quite a few bits of it. It was entertaining enough for me to continue watching it. I mean, I think that's why it's so prevalent in the horror genre, is because those movies just aren't making a whole lot of money by and large, and so it's really easy for them to crank something out. I mean, you've got a budget of $200,000. And you make a film that sells, or makes 700,000 or $1 million, and then goes on to DVD and becomes a cult classic, and people nail it, and you're getting money from Netflix and everything else. Shit, man, it's no risk. It's absolutely no risk. You can shove it out there, no problem. I can't even imagine what the budget it was on Apollo 18, but it couldn't have been much.
I don't think any of the budgets on any of these movies are very expensive. I think Chronicle is probably the largest budget because they actually had special effects in the movie. And it wasn't really a horror
sci-fi film.
Yeah, it's more of a sci-fi, but same genre. But horror, it's the cheapest mold right now, and other movies aren't hitting like they used to. Horror used to be one of the most marketable genres, and it kind of died down. I think a lot of the satires killed it to some degree.
The scary movies and things like that.
Yeah. Spoof Central.
I think that did take a hit on it. But then there were films like Sinister. I haven't seen Mama yet, but Sinister just blew my socks off. Sinister and Insidious, and they were made on pretty small budgets, especially considering the star power they had. And they were just really well done. So I mean, it's not like the genre is completely dead. It's just that, like everything else, there's an 80-20 rule. Well, in horror's case, more like a 95-5 rule. Yeah. And the movies are out there. They're not all being made in the U.S. There's some really good stuff going on in France and South America, as far as horror goes, if you're willing to watch subtitles. But the found footage film is definitely just rocking everything that's going on. I think because it's cheap and it's easy to produce and it's a low risk. I think it's really what it comes down to.
Very low risk.
Do you think, though, that with found footage, in its literary equivalent, it would be like a first-person narrative? Do you think that because it's that kind of format that it creates an emotional resonance that some kind of a third-person omniscient form of movie storytelling maybe can't give you?
I don't think so. I think the reason it works when it does work is simply shock factor. It's just, you don't know what's coming because it's not the typical film narrative. It's jarring. It's all over the place. It's skittish. I mean, those things keep people off kilter a little bit, so they're not really sure what to expect. So when something does happen, oh crap! Or they pay a lot more attention because they know it could be a real subtle difference. It could be a subtle change. Paranormal Activity is a perfect example. You go watch those movies and you never know what's going to happen. So you're watching every corner of the screen at all times.
Yeah, and that's what I found myself doing with Insidious and Sinister was basically looking for those kinds of cues because they were there. You just had to look really close for them. But yeah, the found footage stuff definitely, if it's done right, you're constantly looking in the peripheral vision to see if you catch something that the first person POV doesn't exactly focus on, and if you go into the horror survival genre games that are out there, it's kind of the same deal. It basically, they're playing with shadows, they're playing with side views. You're locked in. You don't have any perspective of peripheral vision or anything like that to help you out, and yet you're looking through this thing as if you're looking through somebody's eyes. And so the idea is to give you that. And yeah, I think it is somewhat analogous to the first person short story, but or first person format of literature. But at the same time, even that has got some distance. Is really, really difficult, I think, in some ways to build up suspense when you're in first person. It's harder, I think. It's a lot harder.
It can be. Do you think, though, that maybe the advent and the proliferation of CGI has kind of helped take some of the horror and fun away from horror films?
I hate CGI.
Especially early on.
I hate CGI in horror films. I'll be honest with you. Hate it, loathe it. Very rarely do I see CGI in a horror movie where I don't realize it's CGI. And as soon as I see it, it's like, Now, even Friday the 13th, you know how ridiculous it is. the odds of a guy taking out 47 counselors and nobody catching on till the end is pretty rare. but it still gets you because it looks real. It looks intense. It gets you. Whereas this fake CGI blood and what? Oh God, I just can't get into that.
I think it goes back to the whole less is more. I really do. I think the one thing that some of the Hostel movies had was they would show you just enough and then pull the camera away. Those scenes worked better for me than when they showed the full meal deal, so to speak.
Oh yeah, when they went too far, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's just like, why do you feel the need to go completely splatterpunk? I just don't. I personally don't understand that. I mean, I like gore as much as the next guy, but there's definitely a ceiling that you really shouldn't go beyond, in my humble opinion. But you look at the way that those movies rate, it's really kind of scary. Since we're talking about horror films, the amount of shit that people actually want to go see. I mean, that's why Saw when it was going as a series, what did they make, 6 films or was it 7?
7, I think.
Was it 7?
I think so. I don't remember. It's hard to keep track. They all after 3, when Jigsaw actually died and they kept making them, I lost track.
Spoiler.
Sorry. Whoops.
Well, but it's the same thing. They were pushing them out every year at Halloween. I mean, the same thing has happened with oh God,
Paranormal Activity. Yeah.
Yeah, but not just Paranormal Activity, but what's the flick where the people don't die and they're supposed to die, therefore death.
Final Destination.
Thank you, Final Destination movies. They've made like 5 or 6 of those, and it's kind of the same thing. People are just kind of like, well, I'll take my girlfriend to this or boyfriend to this, and they'll get scared and cuddle with me. It's kind of the same deal, but I don't understand why people keep watching it. We talk about bad CGI. Let's look at the latest Final Destination, for crying out loud.
Yeah, it's not even a horror movie.
Yeah, it's just there's occasionally where they've gone so far that it just doesn't freaking matter. The one redeeming factor or one redeeming thing in Apollo 18 was they didn't give the creatures that were out there enough definition for you to really get a good hard look at what these things were. You only caught like little glimpses of them, and that made them more terrifying because you couldn't understand them. But when you're sitting there staring at a huge CGI monster, you have a moment, or you have enough time to take a look at all of it and realize just how freaking ridiculous it is. Mm-hmm. And the first Mummy film is a good example of that. They did great CGI with the skeletons and everything else. And then in the sequel, you had the Scorpion King, and he looked like something out of Quake.
It was
the video game.
So bad.
It was so terrible because you got to see all of it, and it was like so hokey and just awful. And it just ripped me right out of the movie completely.
That was actually a fun movie until the very end. When
it
CGI
was. And if you took out the horrible CGI of The Rock, being all scorpiony.
Scorpiony? I don't know if that's a word, man.
Being all arachnid, it still is a fun movie because the CGI stuff they had with the little good God, the little pygmies, if that's what we want to call them, running around, that worked quite well, and it was fun. It was just fun. But the Scorpion King thing was just way too hokey to be taken seriously.
I really don't. The torture porn, the stuff you were alluding to with Saw and Hostel and those movies, that's horror I just do not get into. I just, it's almost like the Japanese style of horror where it's extreme horror. It's just something I just don't get. My brother loves that stuff, loves it. That's great. And I'm not knocking anybody that appreciates it. Good for you. I don't get it. It's just a little too long on the camera is holding the shot at the open wound. I don't need to see that, man. I can watch ER reruns if I really need that.
Well, the main reason I watched all the Saw movies is because I wanted to see how they put all the story parts together. The actual torture scenes, basically some of them I just literally fast forwarded through them because I just wanted to see what they were trying to do from a narrative perspective.
Oh, I love the
putting
traps,
everything together.
The traps are great.
Oh yeah, the traps are awesome, but and they worked best when you didn't see everything. But for the most part, you did see everything. And the Hostel flicks I watched only because I just needed to see what the hell that was all about.
Those are 2 movies I loathe. Just loathe. I could go on and on, but I won't.
Thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
think
but let's
there
talk about.
definitely is a skill in that, though, is making a decision to go with less is more, and have the balls to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's go though with something that we do like. What are some of your favorite pieces of horror media? And let's not keep it just to movies. You mentioned games earlier. We mentioned books. Just whatever of those other media, but of course movies as well. What horror do you guys really get into?
Why don't you go first, Justin? You were quiet a little bit in the last segment. I like to hear your eloquence.
Well, with horror, I love supernatural stuff. I loved Blair Witch when I first saw it. I had never seen anything like it, and my wife and I went to go see it, and it affected her so much she hasn't watched a horror movie since then. She just can't do it. It was too much, and I loved it. I've loved the Paranormal Activity movies. They've kind of been diminishing returns as we go, but still, there are some real genuine frights to be had in those films. But outside of movies, I love to play video games. We don't talk about them much on the Ho for multiple reasons, mostly because it gets Aaron's anger up. But the Silent Hill games are, without doubt, the scariest games I've ever played. Silent Hill 2, I had to try it 3 times before I could actually get over my fear and play more than an hour of the game and eventually beat it. But Silent Hill is great. Resident Evil occasionally can be scary. I remember playing Doom way back in the day, and that was one of the first games I played when I got a new system after having a Tandy 1000 for so long. And to suddenly hear these stereo sound effects of monsters growling and all that, it was pretty frightening too.
To watch your little face get bloodier and bloodier and bloodier.
Oh yeah.
Thank you, Doom.
That was the state-of-the-art effects right there, boy. Ooh, I got a cut.
God.
That must be bad.
But as far as books go, there have really only been 2 books that genuinely scared me bad. The first one was The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty. The book goes into, and of course, because it is a book, goes into so much more of the psychology aspects of Reagan and what might be going on with her, but it also has some scenes of supernatural stuff going on that isn't in the movie. Though if you watch the version you've never seen, they added back in the Itsy Bitsy Spider scene, which that scene in the book, it was the first time I had read a lot of horror.
Is that the spider walk? Is that what you're talking about?
It's where she bends over backwards and then scuttles down a stairway.
Yeah.
Sneaks up behind a woman, and then her tongue snakes out of her mouth to lash against this woman's ankles, and she looks down and sees this demonic face.
I've been trying to get my wife to do that for years.
Well, I had read a lot of horror.
Is that
up to
position
that
in the Kama Sutra?
It might be. It probably is. Hopefully a little less horrific than what was in the book and the movie. But that scene in the book, I actually had to put the book down and walk away because my heart was racing. I was so scared. And then there was another book called Dawn of the Vampire. And it was just a scene of someone swimming through this man-made lake that was created when a dam broke and covered this town. And he had swum down to the bottom to find this cemetery because he needed some piece of info. I forget what it is now. But while he was swimming back up through the dark and the murk, he felt someone watching him and coming after him. And the person who wrote it, and I can't remember who it was now, but whoever wrote it, their description of that feeling of being stalked and watched and chased was so visceral. That scared me too. But as much as I love to read horror and have come to enjoy writing it, scary books are the hardest things to scare me, and I'm not quite sure why that is.
Really? That's actually kind of surprising for you.
Yeah, but movies and video games can do it much. And it's probably just it's easier because you've got the combination of the visuals and the sound and all that. Whereas with a book, sometimes I might be a little too much in my head.
The games, that's really hard for me. I mean, I've never been scared by a game. I guess they feel too mechanical. So when I'm playing it, the whole time I'm well aware I'm playing a game. You know what I mean? Whereas a movie, I can get immersed, I can get lost. Even a book, I can get lost. But I haven't found a game that's been able to do that. But I haven't played Silent Hill, so I can't.
Oh. The Dead Space games are pretty scary too.
I
A lot of those are boo scares, though.
I played
they
the Dead Space 2, and I thought there were some scares in that one. Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of it's since you're touching on this, a lot of that has to do with the aural components. I mean, what your ears hear. I mean, if you take one of these scary games and you turn off the sound, totally different experience.
Mm-hmm.
I used to play Doom 2 with Skinny Puppy as a soundtrack, and that was pretty fucked up shit. Yeah, you really want to twist your brain instead of turn off that meaty crap and put on some Skinny Puppy or Frontline Assembly, and it'll really tear your brain out. But I think it's basically the combination of the senses in the video games that can make them so insane. Because if you are able to get into them, especially if they're an FPS, they really can just absolutely terrify the shit out of you. Doom 3 really did that to me, and it's like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm going to try and play this game because, you know, the game designers went through and they did lots of false scares where you'd hear shit rattling around, or a monster would show up behind some glass, smash some shit, and then disappear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they weren't even going to fight you. They just basically came down to say hi and then left. Or you see them crawling just their ass end as they're crawling into a vent. I mean, stuff like that's just it's
that's constantly ratcheting up the tension.
Exactly, and I think that's the big deal, and that's how it works with the games. And a lot of them do it wrong, but a lot of them are doing it right, which is, you know, you're going through all these cramped spaces, they're ratcheting up the tension, and the only way they can release that is to give you some huge battle that's usually in an open area, so you can get all that out of your system before they put you in the next enclosed area, so you can start it all over again.
Shoot the glowing orange thing. Shoot it a lot.
Yeah, shoot it a ton of times. And you know, when you get into those quote unquote boss battles, they're a lot less suspenseful than the stuff where you've just been, you know, fighting the little zombies or whatever the fuck they are that come out of the walls, because those things, the way they move. They just look so insectile and not real with what they do to them that it really can creep you out, and it certainly does. Those games do a really good job on me. It kind of fucked me up. But as far as books go, good Lord, I think the first book I read that really scared the shit out of me was The Shining.
Yeah. I'm with you. That was one of mine, actually.
Yeah, and that and some of Clive Barker's early stuff. The short stories would just leave you shaking your head going, God damn, that's messed up.
So, wait, before you go on, what did you think of the movie The Shining? That's one of my biggest beefs is I am not a fan of The Shining, even though everybody tells me I'm supposed to be. Are you a fan?
I am, but it's not the book. I think it was very groundbreaking at the time. I think there are some great cinematic shots in it and everything else that really work. Mm-hmm. I still think Shelley Duvall is one of the ugliest women on the planet.
She still is. Literally, to this day, she still is, yeah. I don't even know if she's alive, but she still she qualifies.
But you know, it was an interesting movie, and I liked a lot of the choices that Kubrick made. But yeah, it's got nothing on the book. It's got absolutely nothing on the book. I think it's extremely difficult to capture everything. I mean, God, they tried, and then what was that? USA made a miniseries out of it or something?
They made a miniseries,
with,
isn't it?
The guy from Wings.
Yeah.
Steven Weber.
Yeah, Steven Weber.
Actor extraordinaire.
Yeah. And it wasn't bad. It wasn't great, and it sure as shit wasn't a movie, but at least they tried to work in, you know, the topiary and some of the other things that were going on. Mm-hmm. And that's one of my favorite scenes is when Danny is at the playground and the topiary creatures keep moving closer and closer.
Yeah, that's great in the book.
Yeah, and he goes into that little tunnel and gets completely freaked out because there's something else in there with him that he can't see, but is starting to whisper to him or whatever. I mean, it's stuff
Paul.
like that. Huh?
And it's you, Paul.
And it's me. Yeah, right. So it's there's books like that can really just set you up and you know, mess with your mind. And I as a horror writer, I think it's much more fun to lay out the pieces, but let people fill in the parts with their imagination. You know, go more psychological with it. And there are some movies that do a really good job of that. You know, the movies, the books, Yeah, Sinister and Insidious are definitely my favorite horror movies that have come out in the last 5 or 10 years, easily.
Give Mama a try. I like that more than I thought I would.
Yeah, I really, like I said in my review of Sinister, I'm kind of looking forward to seeing that because I have this hunch that what's going on right now is we're going to see a renaissance of the psychological horror, going back to basics, kind of things where it's not just jump scares because those get boring really fast.
Mm-hmm.
It's more about building that up so you're afraid when the camera goes into that corner. And there's this scene in Sinister where the main character is walking through his house because he hears things creaking, and there's these ghosts that are making the creaking noises in the house, and they're moving behind him, and they're doing shit. And there's all these long shots of him walking down a hallway, and way in the background you see a figure walk across. And it's shit like that just gives me the chills, and really you just get the suspense so ratcheted up because you're like, when are these things going to attack him or whatever.
I had some issues with that movie, but I did like the atmosphere. It was very atmospheric, and I respect that. They were trying some different things. I think the the main bad, whatever you want to call him, bad guy, villain.
The ghoul.
Ghoul, there you go. Should have been more prominent and should have been more of a factor at the end. I didn't particularly like the ending, but everything else, the atmosphere and everything was spot on. I look forward to the next film in that series.
Yeah, at first I thought about how were they going to do a sequel, but now I know how I would do a sequel to it. So
more movies, more reel-to-reels.
No, not just that, but I would go back and say and try and go into it about the college professor starts putting shit together and starts basically doing what he needs to do, but God forbid he's not going to live in any of these houses. I mean, basically, if you were in that house and you had no kids, you were fine. Us singles or us that have no kids, yeah, us dinks, we're fine.
That's basically alluding to don't have children. That's what the whole series is about.
Little
that's
fuckers
just
will kill you.
That's just good advice all around.
But no, I think there are some definite possibilities that we're seeing that we're going to see the rise of horror back in where it needs to be. I'm really hopeful that we're going to see that and get past this sparkly vampire shit and neutered werewolves kind of crap and go back to basically the kind of shit that scared the hell out of me when I was a kid.
Mine are pretty easy. I mean, anyone that's ever listened to the show knows Friday the 13th. I don't care how simple it is. I realize it makes me the lowest common denominator. Love it. I love
You're
it.
used to it.
I am. I'm okay with it. Evil Dead. I love Evil Dead. Jaws is one of the scariest movies when it came out that I ever saw. Unfortunately, now people are like, well, the shark movie that you don't even see the shark in? Like, shut up. You aren't allowed to comment, personally. But I hear that quite a bit. I saw Jaws 4. That doesn't count. We never count Jaws 4. Mario Van Peebles has no place in any film conversation.
Come on.
Come on.
Well, I mean, that even goes back to the original Alien movie. I mean, you didn't really see you didn't see what the hell that thing was for a long ass time into the flick.
Absolutely, and that's
what made it work.
People need to go back to that because those movies will stick with you. Nightmare on Elm Street, one of my favorite horror movies before it got schlocky. I mean,
before it got schlocky.
Yeah, it was. Wow. I love horror movies. I mean, I must be an angry person. I don't know. But music doesn't get talked about enough. The themes, horror themes like Halloween, even Exorcist, which I'm not an Exorcist fan. And it's
oh, God, Tubular Bells.
Yeah, just some of the best music. I mean, there's a reason why every Halloween it's played everywhere you go because it's so sinister and evil. And I think I'm going to get stabbed or I'm going to have some crazy little kid cuss at me every time that shit plays. It's just fantastic works of music, honestly.
Years ago, when I used to live at home, I had a stereo that I used as my alarm clock, and I had forgotten one morning that I had left Tubular Bells in the CD player, and I had to get up early for something, but it was like 5 o'clock in the morning, and all of a sudden, just as loud as can be, tubular bells just throws me up out of the bed, and my heart, I swear I probably lost 5 pounds from my heart racing, looking around like, oh shit, what's happening? What's happening? It took me a while to realize what the fuck I'd done.
It works. And if you think about it, every single iconic film series, a film horror series has some kind of iconic theme song, has some theme song that you can hear it and go, that's that movie. That's Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yep.
1, 2, Freddy's Coming for You. Friday the 13th, Kill, Ma, Ma, Ma. Even Shining has recognizable music. All these horror classics have music that stand out because music, like you were talking about with games, set the mood.
Yeah.
Well, Silent Hill has got a fantastic soundtrack for their games, and usually when I was writing Stillwater, I think Silent Hill is probably the music I listen to most of the time because it really just has this discordant sound to it that was really helpful in creating a feeling of dread and being scared.
Books, before we move on, books, Salem's Lot. I love the book Salem's Lot.
Good one.
I think the miniseries isn't too bad. The Kid Scratching on the Glass was really well done.
Oh, Jesus.
That was really well done.
That scared me so bad as a kid.
That was very well done. Shining, I love The Shining. A lot of his collections, his early collections were really, really good.
Skeleton Crew.
Yeah, there you go, Skeleton Crew. Edgar Allan Poe's The Telltale Heart, one of my favorite stories of all time. Just gets me, just when I first read it, I think I pissed myself, honestly. I'm like, it's in the floor? What? What? But those are my favorites.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, there is a lot of older stuff. I mean, I never found H.P. Lovecraft particularly scary.
It's interesting though. It's very.
It's some of it's just plain weird.
It's all weird.
It's all weird.
Cthulhu,
but you know what I'm saying? It's
odd.
just so bizarre. It's completely off the wall. And Clyde Barker kind of delved into a little bit of that.
Oh yeah, with Imagica or Imagica. I never really figured out how you're supposed to spell that or pronounce that title.
Well, ask us on Twitter.
Weave World was like that a lot. My favorite though of Clive Barker is The Great and Secret Show.
Oh, not Midnight Meat Train? Sorry.
I never read that.
That's an excellent short story.
It's an excellent short story. It's
quite a bit.
Awful movie.
But The Great and Secret Show was fantastic. I just wish that its sequel, Everville, had been as good. But I do like Clive Barker quite a bit, and it is because of that really vivid imagination that he's got.
No, he's just not afraid to throw in the kitchen sink. He's really not.
Who, Clive Barker?
Yeah.
Oh, he's out there too. Him and Lovecraft, if they were, if Lovecraft's around, they could hang out.
Those are a couple of brains you don't want to go taking a peek in if you don't.
No, because Lovecraft was extremely homophobic and also extremely racist, so I'm not really sure that worked out too well.
Cthulhu was a gay black person?
Yeah, Cthulhu was a gay black person.
Okay. Don't let that guy plan your birthday party. That's what I'm saying.
Well, in one of the episodes of The Hollywood Outsider, Brian said that the zombies in 28 Days Later weren't quote-unquote real zombies. And when he said that, of course, a part of me tilted my head like a dog hearing a sound that it doesn't quite understand. And so I wanted to ask you guys, what does that even mean? What is a real zombie, considering that there is no real zombie?
There's no real werewolf either. What's your point?
Have at it, Paul.
When
if you can
people say the creatures in 28 Days Later, well, those aren't zombies. What does that mean? Is it just because that they're not undead?
Correct.
But so many people in our culture will use zombie in in a not dead context. Like if you just sit there and watch TV all day, well, they're just going to call you, you're like a zombie. So really, haven't we kind of left the dead aspect behind, and it's more just about a mindlessness?
Well, Brian and Paul, I'm not cutting you off. You can finish in a second. I just want to explain what Brian's meaning was. He meant the real zombies are the slow lumbering kind, because that's what he considers real zombies. The 28 Days Later fast, we gotta hurry up and eat your brains. We don't have time to wait.
Ain't got time for that.
Ain't got time for that. Those are the ones that he doesn't consider real.
Okay.
Well, first off, I would say that the zombie word has been co-opted by a bunch of ignorant fuckheads. Because you go back to the Caribbean, zombies have nothing to do with eating brains. They have nothing to do with any of that bullshit.
Oh, he's going to school us.
Basically just dead people walking around. They didn't really have, and they were controlled by a master, so to speak. But they may commit crimes or whatever else, but they weren't, the Walking Dead eating people kind of deal. And even if you go back and you watch George Romero's Night of the Living Dead, they are never called zombies. And oh, by the way, they don't eat brains.
What?
They don't eat brains. Go back and look at the original.
Send more cops.
That's the second one. That's Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
In Romero's original, they had nothing to do with brains. Absolutely nothing.
What were they at? They just killed you.
They killed you and they turned you into one of them. I mean, they'd eat your intestines, they'd eat anything else, but they weren't just cracking your skull open to eat your brains.
Well, did the brains then, did that really come in more with the Return of the Living Dead, or was that more a Dawn? Because even in Dawn of the Dead, they were all about the intestines and shit.
Oh, yeah. No, it was Return of the Living Dead, which Romero had nothing to do with. That's when the brain thing started.
Gosh, you're right. Brains.
And I think we've gotten back to Romero's version because Walking Dead's very much, they just want to eat you. They're not too particular about which portion. There's no drumstick.
You want the foot or the wing? I'll take either, man.
Hank, get over here.
I'm a breast man.
So that's really what it comes down to. But I think the distinction that Brian was making is, yes, they're not undead. And I would go further than that. Than if you watch 28 Days or 28 Weeks, and some of these other films, it's about humans that are infected with something like the rage virus or whatever else, where basically just a portion of their brain that has to do with any kind of control of emotion goes bye-bye. And it's a completely different kind of, pardon the pun, animal than the typical zombie kind of deal. And we had this whole discussion at Balticon several years ago. I was on the one of the panels where we had Dr. John Schmar on there, and we were discussing this because he's actually like a pathologist. And there was a whole discussion about how long dead flesh would hold together, whether or not zombies could swim. The living dead, so to speak, whether or not they'd be able to do some of these things. And the answer is no. The answer is absolutely not. Certain things are going to fall apart and just through rotten decay, and eventually there's not going to be much left. Well, it's just the way it is.
But here's the thing. It's fictional, okay? These aren't real. So they can be fast. They can fly. I don't give a fuck. It's not real. None of it's real. So honestly, that might be the next version, Justin. You like Superman. So if you think about it, a flying zombie is not that far off. It could happen.
That's a horrifying thought.
Think how awesome that would be. That would be a fantastic movie. Zombies could fly.
Well, it just, this
Super
conversation.
zombie.
I've had this conversation before, though, with people who, they'll say that a certain movie or whatever, well, that's not a real vampire. And I'm like, well, what the fuck is a real vampire? There's no such thing. A lot of people say, well, if the sun doesn't hurt it, it's not a real vampire. I'm like, well, go read Dracula, because Dracula was not affected by sunlight. A lot of people, there have been lots of additions and changes to the myth over the years, and sometimes people they get this idea in their head of what these monsters should be, and for them, that's the real version, and any difference to that just kind of puts it outside of what's real. And I always find it a little humorous when people want to start making these arguments about, what is a real fictional character. It's kind of an oxymoron right from the get-go.
Well, people want to categorize things. They want to have a dictionary. They want to have an encyclopedia. They want to have some kind of zoological explanation for what these things are, label to put them on. And that's how you get this bizarreness. It wasn't really until the Bela Lugosi Dracula that you got the sunlight thing. There's just there's going to be a lot of morphing between this, that, and the other. Werewolves didn't used to be able to control the change. Now some of them can, some of them can't. They can learn, blah, blah, blah. Vampires can feast on pig's blood instead of human's blood, blah, 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 stuff like that. I mean, it's always going to change and morph.
It depends on
how. Of course, you got this whole other modern-day component where like, oh, well, it's a virus that makes them do this, or it's some special gene or whatever.
Fuck that. I hate that. version of the story. Whenever they go there, I hate that shit. That seems like lazy, right? Oh no, let's make it real. It's real, but not real. They're fucking zombies. It's not real.
But that kind of plays, and that's kind of playing into the next thing I wanted to bring up, which is, why do you think zombies are so popular right now? No matter what the medium is, whether you're talking a book, a game, movie, TV show, zombies are it. And do you think that says more about us, really, than it does about zombies? And the reason I'm bringing this up now is because you said you don't like the whole virus type of zombie. But don't you think that maybe that lies at the heart of why we find them so fascinating as monsters? Maybe our own internal fear of, the whole Captain Trips virus maybe getting loose and suddenly it wreaks havoc with humanity. Do we not fear science to a certain degree, the manufactured genes that are out there?
I think all this stuff is cyclical. I think they all go in cycles. It's been werewolves, it's been vampires, it's been ghosts, now it's zombies' turn. All this stuff keeps coming around. I don't think there's no real rhyme or reason. It's just right now, zombies' turn. In 2 years, it's going to be one of the other ones. And we're just going to go around and find something else to obsess over.
I don't know. I mean, you look at the news and you watch all the violence that people are exposed to now around the world on a daily basis that we didn't really get to see 10, 20, 30 years ago. Our sphere of information was really small, but suddenly we see, that world population number of, 7 billion, 8 billion now. That used to just be a number, but now you can turn on CNN or Fox or whatever and see footage of these places in Africa and China that are just filled with people, and so many of them sick, and these other areas of violence. And it seems like zombies in a certain way kind of resonate with that overpopulation, so many starving, so many sick, we're so violent. I think there's something to that. I think you're being a little, I wouldn't say flippant, but I don't think you're giving that enough due.
I think the horror theme, whatever is prevalent at that particular time, yes, stems from whatever we're afraid of as people at that time. Back in the 70s, it was the stranger. So they had a lot of horror was based on that individual that, you might run into, like Last House on the Left, that sort of thing. Yep. In the 80s, it was teens for fear of having sex, and that was the penalty. You're going to die. So everything was
sex,
a teen
drugs,
slasher.
rock and roll, you're dead.
Yep, exactly. 90s, I don't know what really 90s were ghosts, and then it kind of were satire. Everything was satirized, and now it's fucking zombies.
I think in the 80s we were more afraid of knives. Whether it was machetes or strapped to a dude's hand. For some reason, knives just scared the shit out of us.
I know. Nobody shot anybody in the 80s. And if they did, they never died. Never died. But I see what you're saying. I will say, even though I hate the virus zombie version, I don't like that particular plot point because I think it's silly. They're zombies. Just let them be zombies. You don't need to make them realistic to sell them to me. But I think that is hitting a lot of people's nerve because they're like, well, maybe it could happen. They're buying into that. It could happen. Grandma could come back and eat my face off.
She's a mean bitch.
Obviously.
Well, just hand her a pair of knitting needles and keep her occupied.
That's what she stabs your eyes out with, man. You don't hand her a weapon.
Okay, give that bitch the New York Times crossword puzzle.
I don't know. There are certain instances of the man-made virus turning people into zombies that I think does play well. I mean, in the Walking Dead TV show, they basically say that's what all these zombies result from, was that CDC thing. So I don't know. It can work, it cannot, but I do think that the whole idea of hell is full and now the dead rise, that's got some fucking play to it too.
Yeah,
I think that's why Night of the Living Dead was so had such an impact, because it didn't try and explain anything. I think those are the most effective movies in that way. You look at Return of the Living Dead and all the other bullshit that comes on. It always starts out with somebody accidentally kicking over a barrel of some shit that was weaponized.
Green goo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the green goo that brings corpses back to life or whatever. And yeah, that movie was fun. It was horribly acted, horribly scripted, horribly shot.
Are you talking Return of the Living Dead?
Yes.
I fucking love that movie. I don't care. I love it.
But at the same time, it's fucking hilarious.
It's
it is so
great.
disgustingly ridiculous. Send more paramedics.
And the fact that they all just dig out of that fucking cemetery with no problem. These dead are just clawing through boxes, pine boxes, everything that they can, all 6 feet of ground. They get up, no problem. And then they're dancing. What's up?
It's like, I don't have a problem there.
That's
But
funny.
I think Jim Butcher hit something on, I can't remember which Drosnin book it was. It was 1, 2, or 3. But since 9/11, the uptick in fantasy and horror, as far as people buying it and everything else, is just ramped up through the roof. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that people want to try and put a face to the dread. They want to try and somehow label these things that make them uneasy at night. It's a lot better to be able to see this thing coming at you than it is to imagine there's some boogeyman around the corner who's going to blow you up with a bomb.
Mm-hmm.
I think
some banker going to take your money away.
Yeah, that too. Fuckers.
Those fuckers are scary.
Yeah, that's a lot scary.
Those fuckers are scary, man.
I'd rather see Jason Voorhees.
Yeah. So I think there is something to that with this, and I think it's also along the lines of we fear societal collapse, and that's what a lot of these plague-ridden flicks have and books have in common. Is it's post-apocalypse. It's the collapse of society, because we're kind of seeing it in some ways. We got a crumbling infrastructure. You've got here in the United States, you've got our people are incredibly divided over politics, or at least that's what the media would like us to believe. And there's a lot of crazy shit going on. And I think basically people are buying into this because it's much more comforting to imagine it living in the aftermath than it is to live during it falling apart.
Yeah, I was about to say, I mean, you said people are afraid of the collapse of society, yet I think that there is a certain part of all of us, and it's enhanced in some of us, not me, but that there are certain people who would kind of like to see society collapse. I think that there are a lot of people who are tired of the grind, who are tired of a government fucking them over, of a boss fucking them over, of all these bills that keep piling up, and just the drudgery of the day-to-day. And if shit went down and suddenly you didn't have a bill to pay and a politician looking to screw you over, and it was just you, your machete, and a Walking Dead guy, that reduces your scope of shit to deal with down to a pretty fine point. And you see the rise in these people who are survivalists and those sorts of things. And quite often the whole zombie apocalypse comes up, and there are people who say they're getting ready for it with a straight face.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think there are people who would actually welcome a certain collapse, not a certain collapse, a total collapse of society, because they're, I don't know, them and Ted Nugent are just going to get out there and take care of business.
Now, see, now that you've said that, that reminds me of McCammon's Swan Song.
Oh God, that's so good.
Oh wow.
Robert R. McCammon.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. That was just a random thought of the day. I'm like, wow, all right, nice point.
Well, I mean, talking about the survivalists, basically planning or hoping for the end. I mean, there's two things that come to mind immediately: Swan Song and the Robin Williams, Walter Matthau movie, The Survivors.
I knew where you're going. Oh wow, that's
those
funny.
are the two things I think about when I think about survivalists.
Touche.
I don't know what that
Random
says
thought.
exactly, but maybe that's just how ridiculous I find the whole concept. I don't know.
That says that you know fine cinema, sir. That's what that says.
Thank you.
Well, okay, so what, if zombies are indeed wearing out their welcome, then what do you think might be the next possible monster to capture our cultural attention? Do you think it's going to swing back around to an oldie but a goodie, or maybe something new?
I think based on what we've seen from the cinema, I mean, as cheesy as they are, the Paranormal Activity movies just did bank. Mm-hmm. Insidious, Sinister, they did bank.
So do you think demons and ghosts?
I think we're going to go back to the paranormal, supernatural kind of thing. I think that's slowly winding its way, and I also think that the religious horror is going to make a huge bounce back as well. I think it's just a matter of time before we start seeing that.
Because we need a few more fanatics running around. we were running low.
I don't know. I don't need a horror movie about demons when I've got the Westboro Baptist Church, shrieking on
Oh,
TV.
you know they're putting together a production right now. Somebody's writing a script in that church. They're like, all right, here's what we do. If we could change the world.
As
Watch
unreligious as I am, supernatural horror is what really gets me going, especially things like The Exorcist. I don't believe in demons, but you put them on a screen and I am pissing myself. So I would like to see a continued resurgence in ghosts and in demons and that sort of supernatural chicanery.
Well, I think he's right, because the early 80s, before slasher picks really started hitting, it was Poltergeist and Entity, things like that. So I mean, Amityville Horror, those movies. So yeah, I could see that coming back.
I think it's just going to depend. There's going to be some watershed moment. There always is. Harry Potter was the watershed for the 90s as far as and early 2Ks as far as fantasy goes, fantasy fiction.
Mm-hmm. And YA Rising.
And YA and the wise of YA, the rise of YA.
Young adult, for those who don't know. Young
adult. Basically, where you can have as much violence and blood as you want, as long as nobody's having sex and you don't drop an F-bomb. That makes no fucking sense to me at all. But I digress. I think there's going to be a watershed moment here where there's some book that is probably being written right now. I wish I was writing it. That is going to bring all this together and start the next push. But at the same time, the zombie thing, if you really think about it and you go back and you look, it's never gone away. It's just this undercurrent, just like vampire. The vampire thing rose. Mm-hmm. Now we're seeing a decline on that bullshit because I'm so fucking sick of it. The werewolf thing always has a difficult time sticking around, but it's always there as an undercurrent as well.
Now, I agree with you to a point, and I don't agree with you to a point. I love vampire myth. I love the vampire myth.
Thank you.
When they are violent. When they are like 30 Days of Night. Yes. Those vampires, fuck yes. I hoped for a minute that they were going to come back. But the sparkly shit that run around and want to save the Maiden Fair, I don't want to see anymore. We've got it. Buffy handled it much better than Twilight, but then Twilight came and became huge. Now they're done. Please, let's go back to vicious vampires, because those work for me.
I think the vampires in 30 Days of Night and the vampires in the movie that just came out a few years ago. The flick where the vampires had taken over and there were only a few humans left.
Daybreak?
Daybreakers.
Daybreakers, yeah.
All right, the Russian one.
No, this was the one with Ethan Hawke.
Oh, I didn't see that one. I don't think I saw that one.
It's actually not that bad. It's not that
Sam
good.
Neill.
It's not that
Sam
bad.
Neill's in it, yeah.
It was absolutely fucking insane once the vampires completely lost their shit. They were the nasty stuff of fucking nightmares. I mean, it was, tear the throat out, rip them apart, and just, dying on the cloud of bloody mist that flies out. It was that kind of vampire.
Or do you mean priest?
No, I don't mean priest.
Fuck, nobody means priest.
Well, those were some pretty monstrous vampires.
Yeah, those were pretty ugly too, and I kind of like the idea of them being primitives. That also had its moments and was kind of cool. I think it's more along the lines of putting the claws back in, putting the teeth back in, and turning them back into what they are, which is they're no less. They make as much sense as one of these things running around in 28 Days Later. They've got a need. They just do what they do. They are predators, and you are prey, and it's that simple. There's no rationalizing with them. There's no having a discussion with them. There's no inviting them to tea. They're just going to fucking kill you. And it's all about surviving it. Is really where it comes in. And I think that those books and those movies still make it out there, and they're kind of nice to see. But for so long, Hollyweird is just, and a lot of publishing companies decide to latch onto this sparkly bullshit or vampires with a conscience or some other crap.
Exactly.
That really doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
I control my thirst. I only drink pig blood. What?
Hey! Let's stop you talking about Angel, because I will cut a bitch. I will cut a bitch.
Angel was a pussy.
Hey, I like the Angel too. Come on now.
I wish whenever werewolves do come back, I wish they would go more the route of the American Werewolf in London.
Or the Howling. Oh,
Or the Howling.
I love
Those
those.
werewolves scare the shit out of me.
Yeah,
I mean,
the Howling
they're
was
as much beast as person.
the,
For
the
dog
Howling
soldiers.
was just, especially when what's her name splashed that one with acid, and then he came back and he was all completely fucked up as a human being, and then turned.
The most
Oh,
intense
God,
transformation
that just scared the
scene
crap out
ever.
of me.
Yeah.
Just don't look like a Pomeranian like the chick at the end of that movie.
Yeah, no shit. She looked like a Japanese Pomeranian. It looked just so bad.
It's awful.
But considering some of the special effects work that they did on the other side, I can forgive that a little bit.
Yeah,
but,
a little bit, yeah.
If somebody were to make that today, they would use way too much CGI and fuck it all up. So, movies like The Thing, the John Carpenter version. It was all practical effects. There was no CGI bullshit in that thing, and it was 10,000 kinds of scary because of that. And I don't know if you all seen the prequel or not.
No, I didn't get around to it.
It's not that bad. It meshes okay. There are a couple plot holes that don't fit with the original, so to speak. But it's definitely not the same movie.
Is Kurt Russell in it?
No.
Fuck that movie. That's all I got to say.
All right. Well, last episode we had a little nerd war, so we're going to go ahead and continue that trend with this episode. I'm going to put Dracula, the Wolfman, Frankenstein's monster, and the creature from the Black Lagoon in the Octagon.
Oh,
Which of these four do you guys think is going to come out?
Are we really going to discuss this?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hell
I mean,
yeah.
which of these monsters, of these universal monsters, which one is the real monster and who are the posers?
Godzilla. Wait, he wasn't one choice, was he?
He would just step on the Octagon and keep moving.
Yeah, exactly. You'd be like, oh, these are monsters? Oh,
I just like
And
that
shake his foot off.
you threw the creature from the Black Lagoon in there. That's just like out of left field.
yeah, that's completely random.
Well, actually, I recently wrote a guy that I know, Ed Lorne. He is putting together an anthology based on the old Universal monsters, but
really?
but redone in a different way. And so I chose Creature from the Black Lagoon and wrote a short story about that. So that one's he's actually more in my mind than the others. But Universal has their four famous monsters, and so I'm putting them in a ring. They're going to duke it out. Who comes walking out?
Paul, you can go first. I got my answer. I'm ready.
Well, it sure as shit won't be the creature from the Black Lagoon because all you got to do is stay away from water.
Yeah, exactly. Have to fight in the desert. You'll be fine.
Yeah,
He just
fuck that
hisses
bitch.
a lot.
Now, what were the four you named?
Dracula, the Wolfman, and the Wolfman's got nards, so don't forget.
He's got
Frankenstein's monster and the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Oh, shit. I think, if I was to go by the books, I would say Frankenstein's monster is winning this one. Easy. Very easy. If we're going by the movies, I'm thinking the Wolfman's taking everybody out.
Okay. Aaron, what about you? Who are you putting your money
Well,
behind?
I agree. Creature from the Black Lagoon, he's dead. He may as well just lay down or get a bus or something because he doesn't belong there.
He just cuts his own throat. And
Yeah, exactly.
He needs to just be handing out the popcorn.
He's kind of like
he's the ring bitch, just
Yeah, there you
walking
go.
around with the card.
he's like Aquaman in the Justice League. He does not belong.
Exactly. Thank you.
Frankenstein, to me, he's just too dumb and mopey. He's just gonna sit around and master, I'm alone, whatever. Wolfman, he's only good for like twice a month. So if you have to battle on like Thursday, and the full moon's not till Saturday, you're kicking his ass. I go Dracula. He can fly.
Yeah,
he
then
can.
if you're having a day match, he's gonna be
But
Ash.
according to the books, as you just alluded to, he can go around in the day.
That's true,
So-
but I think if you're going to go by the books, he's not going to be in that at all because he doesn't like to fight.
Well, he's gonna fight because Justin's making him.
That's right. I got his three wives held hostage.
He's created this monster Thunderdome, and this fucker's
Right.
somebody's got to come out, and he's the only one that can heal himself. So I don't know. That's the one I'm going for. Plus, he's a biter. Biters always win.
No. I think Frankenstein's monster from the books would just kick the shit out of any of them. They just rip them apart.
I would actually go with Frankenstein's monster. I think the guy's strength and size, plus he seems, fairly immune to pain, would enable him to...
Unless you set him on fire.
Well, yeah, unless somebody starts shaking a torch at him. But
Dracula's not going to do that.
I don't think Dracula or the Wolfman's going to have a torch on them. So
No, and that's only in the movie.
I would go with Frankenstein's monster. I think he's a tough motherfucker who's just misunderstood.
2-1. You guys win.
Well, he
from the
picked the
books.
Wolfman.
No, I didn't. I said from the books it'd be Frankenstein's monster.
Right.
From the movies it would be the Wolfman.
Why from the movies would it be the Wolfman? I'm curious.
Because I think the level of violence is so far out there. Dracula wasn't violent. He was kind of a pussycat. He just liked to stalk in the night and then say, "I want to suck your blood."
How you doing?
Fuck that guy. Plus, he was a heroin addict, so screw that.
Yeah.
The children of the night. What's the music they make?
Yes, see, even he was afraid of the wolves. So yeah, fuck that guy. And Frankenstein's monster in the movies. Come on.
He's just ridiculous.
You could just walk around him while he's still trying to turn and smash his head off. It's not really a problem.
So he gets one good hit in though, and you're on your ass.
Do what now?
He gets one good hit in, and you're on your ass, and then he just curb stomps you with those big old mud boots he's got.
Yeah, but he's got to catch you first, and unless you're in a wheelchair with a broken wheel, you're gonna be able to.
You know what? Broken clock's right twice a day. He just wear him down.
Waits it out.
Sun shines on a dog's ass every once in a while. That's right.
Whatever. Fuck that guy. Put a battery up to his neck bolts. I just think the if you go by the books, I think Mary Shelley's Frankenstein's monster would whoop the shit out of everybody there.
Fair enough.
There you go. All right. Well, we've got two other topics that we wanted to hit, and these are non-horror related. And both of these, though, are something that Paul knows a bit about. First up, conventions. Next weekend, Paul and I are both going to be attending Balticon. And then a couple of months from now, we're going to have Dragon Con. Comic-Con was back. Is it Comic-Con in what, May?
June, I think.
Is it June?
June or July. It's one of the... I actually think it's July this year. Yes.
Well,
whenever
conventions are getting bigger, and there's more of them every year. Aaron, you've never actually been to one.
I haven't. I've been as a guest. I've never been on a panel, and I've been to very small ones. I haven't been to any of the mega ones. I think we're going to Dragon Con this year for the hell of an outsider, to pimp the show and also to see all the freaky cosplay people. But no, I've never been to one of the big ones, no.
Have you ever had one? I mean, of course you've probably wanted to go, but if there was, say, and I'm sure there is a Chicago Comic-Con, why don't you go?
Honestly, I don't know. I think it's just timing. I think schedule just didn't work out. I've tried to go a couple times, but...
I mean, does it interfere with your man packing and shit?
Yes, it's very hard. My My Little Pony convention is the same weekend. I just can't do it.
I got to be out in the woods with my friends that weekend. Getting snowed on.
Usually, for me, I'm very busy in the summer work-wise, and it's just very hard to get there usually. That's usually what the problem is. What do you guys like about it? I mean, really... When you go, obviously, you guys are there to pimp some things. I mean, you got the Dead Robot Society, you've got your books, your novels. What else is the appeal for you when you go? Just to be part of the environment?
Well, for me, it's one of the big things I go for is, and probably unfortunately, but it's the merchandise area, the vendor area. I am a complete slut for autographed books. And at Balticon and at Dragon Con and at Comic Con, you are going to find a lot of authors and artists there who are signing their work. And so I love to go and meet these people, get a chance to talk to them, get their autograph on a book, that sort of thing. It's nice to kind of people watch. The cosplayers are always kind of fun, except for the steampunkers that just goddamn drive me insane the way they fill up hallways like cholesterol, just blocking everything.
They're the fucking zombies of fantasy, man.
Jeez. Well, it was in an episode of The Guild, and someone called steampunkers the Euro trash of cosplay.
Oh, there we go.
And that's...
I like that.
I know a lot of people who write steampunk. I got nothing against you, but those costumes and the amount of attention and room they take up and generate is redonkulous. I get so sick of steering around these huge groups of people with gears and goggles.
You know,
Except the corsets are fun.
The corsets can be, depending on the corset and who's in it.
That's a lot of reason why I think some people are almost intimidated to go because of the people that are excessively dressed up or costumed. They feel like they would be out of place. So
you're not. There's a lot of us who walk around in our oversized shirts and shorts, and we're okay.
Yeah, this will be the first time I've been to a con where I'm actually dressing up per se, and that's only for the toga events that have.
Well, that's a sheet.
Just kind of happened. Yeah, I know it's a sheet.
I'm not just wrapping a sheet around yourself as dressing up.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying, though. That's as dressed up as I'm getting.
Right, okay.
Why are you toga partying?
I'm at, God, I wish I could talk. My Garagas Children's series, I'm releasing the book that collects all the stories at Balticon will be the official release, and the last story in it is called Scrolls, and it takes place in 48 BC during the Ptolemaic War. So I figured, fuck it, I'm coming to Caesar. You bitches will bow down to me. So, and
good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck with that.
It has gone insane. I mean, it was started out as a joke about the toga thing, and it has taken on a life of its own.
No, I mean me bowing to you.
Oh, that part? Well, no, bitch, you're gonna be pitting me olives at the book release party. That's how that's gonna work.
And let me ask both of you, what is the?
I'll be throwing them at you.
What is the freakiest thing you guys have ever seen? At a convention?
At a con?
Yeah. What's the freakiest thing? Or just the thing where you went, what the fuck is that?
The girls that dress up as the nurses from Silent Hill. It is such a strange combination of horrifying and sexy because they've got these, they've got these bodies that look fantastic, but then they drape it in blood and wear these headpieces that fuck up their heads, and so it's so scary looking up top, yet appealing down below. And it's when you see them in a group, it sets me back a little bit.
What about you, Paul?
I'm like, I want you, but I don't. But I do, but I don't. I don't know. I gotta go. I'm conflicted.
There are two moments from Dragon Con that come to mind. One was when I was walking down the hall and had to just absolutely positively stop because there was a 7-year-old holding the leash of an alien.
What?
That was walking around on all fours. It must have been his dad or something dressed up as the alien, and the kid is walking him down the hall. He's got his big ass dog collar on and everything else. It was fucked up. It was hilariously cool
and awkward, and probably DCFS was involved.
Yeah, there's no telling.
Wow.
Child Protective Services, it's on its way. But no, it was just really well done. I mean, the alien was just, you'd swear it walked out the movie stage. It was kick-ass. And I saw him later. They were the guys that were dressed up as the Space Marines were chasing him around and following him, and then the security, of course, was running after both of them. So
that's cute.
The most hysterical, embarrassing moment I've ever seen was when 7 Princess Leia slave girls went up the escalator. Mm-hmm. We were sitting in the bar getting hammered, watching everybody, and we had this perfect down angle at them.
God bless America.
Yeah. Well, 5 of them were hot. 1 of them was doable, and the other one should never have even dreamed of wearing that outfit. So the one who should never have dreamed of wearing that outfit had a wardrobe malfunction when they reached the top.
Oh, goodness.
And it wasn't the top that dropped. So the other Princess Leia slave girls are busy huddling around her, trying to help her back into her bottoms, so to speak, to retie everything. And this nice, I have to say I was rather impressed, this nice group of gentlemen surrounded them and turned their backs.
Oh.
That was kind of cool.
Yeah, it's very classy.
And then there were the complete and total fucktard nerds who were peeking between their legs to try and get shots of the exposed beaver.
Are you kidding me?
No, I wish I was.
Even if she was smoking hot, that's still shitty.
Inappropriate.
Yes,
yeah.
I agree. Completely inappropriate. So we were horrified. Luckily, security took care of those assholes, but it was just just sit there and shake your head. It's like, oh God, why would you wear that outfit? And this chick looked more like Jabba the Hutt. She did Princess Leia's slave girl.
It's so bad.
Imagine Jabba the Hutt in the Princess Leia's slave girl outfit, and that's what you've got.
I'll pass. Send emails to Paul at thehollywoodoutsider.
It was pretty foul.
Ooh. I'm looking forward to that. Not necessarily that, but looking forward to the convention.
And the people who really put a lot of effort into their costumes, like the guys who will make the Master Chief armor from Halo at home, or the Mass Effect armor, some of these people really put a lot of time and effort and a not inconsiderable amount of money into making these costumes that look like something out of a Hollywood movie or better. Those people, I do have to take my hat off to.
And I respect that. I mean, granted, that takes a lot of balls to do. And I don't really want to have that amount of balls. But the fact that they go out there and put themselves out there like that, and it gives them a sense of pride, I respect that. Good for them.
Well, when you were saying about going to the cons, the reason why Balticon is my favorite one to go to is because it's small enough where I get to spend time with my readers. I get to meet and hopefully drag in a few more from panels that are new. And I get to spend a lot of time talking with other creatives. And I don't mean Justin, because we know that's not happening. Mm-hmm. But, people like Sigler or Alex White or, the other folks are doing great podcasting work, doing really good writing and stuff like that. It's just a blast to hang out with these people. And Balticon's also known as BarCon. Because a lot of the business and everything else that goes on happens at the bar. You would not believe how much money and how many ideas are traded back and forth over, projects get started and written up on napkins while people are just completely hammered out of their gourd, but everybody's having a really good time. I mean, it's just a nice con. If you go to Dragon Con, you can't do that. You've got 6 hotels involved. You've got 90,000 assholes dressed up or not dressed up, of all sorts of ages and everything else, being obnoxious. It's so goddamn loud you can barely hear yourself. And that's when it's dead. It's not even during the day when everybody's there. It's a completely different kind of con. Balticon, you go for the panels. Dragon Con, you go for the stars and the atmosphere and the cosplay and the people watching. I've never been to Comic-Con, but I imagine it's pretty much the same as Dragon Con. But
except it's in one location.
In one location. But Balticon is just so much fun because of how crazy it gets and the room parties. And these are all people you talk to on Twitter and whatnot. And you really get a chance to actually go and meet them. I mean, it's really cool.
All right. Well, let's lastly touch on Google Glasses. Now, Paul, you are not just a writer, but you're also quite the tech geek. The Google Glasses really have the potential to change our culture and us kind of forever. Is that a good or a bad thing? Are these a fad or are they only the beginning?
Wow. Really, really good question. I think at first we're going to probably see a decline in stupid population because they're going to put on these things, welcome to their nice VR universe, and walk out in front of a bus.
Sorry. That'll be on YouTube.
Sorry. Oh, hell yes. Are you kidding? They'll have the found footage from the Google Glasses just to prove it.
Wow.
Sorry. I think that there's going to be significant pushback on this. I think we're a long ways away from having this really make a impact. And there's a lot of reasons why. Number one, you look like a total jackass wearing these things.
Yes, you do.
People still, I mean, even after all these years of Bluetooth earpieces and everything else, you still look like a complete dipshit if you're wearing that thing and it's sitting there blinking blue. Uhura's headpiece or earpiece in the original Star Trek was more interesting. Mm-hmm. You could actually handle that thing. Oh, it's a spring you put in your ear. Okay, I can deal with that. But the blinking blue plastic piece of shit that's hanging out of your ear, yeah, no. I think that there's going to be it sounds really cool, but I think only the hipster doofuses are going to be walking around with them. And I just don't see that they're really all that useful. I just don't get it. I think some of the technology that they're making now, some of the patents that Apple's put out there that the register is blown off, it looks like they're making wraparound screens now that you can actually wear on your arm like a cuff. Wow. I think that has a lot more usefulness than the glasses thing, and I think it's probably going to catch on and have broader appeal than wearing these fucked up glasses. I think it'll actually be cheaper too.
Well, but the Google Glasses, what they're a part of is wearable computing,
Sure.
wearable technology.
Right.
And so I think those go, hand in hand, so to speak, with whether it's a bracelet, a wraparound thing that has a screen on it, or eventually our clothing itself having some kind of computing capabilities. I think that day is rapidly on its way where your clothes will have as much computing as your phone used to.
Well, I think if you're going to go that route, what I've seen, at least from some of these patents and everything else that are coming out there that I look at, and they're out there. I mean, it's not like you have to go Google them or I've got a secret, special pipeline. No, they're out there. That it looks like it's actually a companion piece for your phone.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, like this cuff that I was talking about is actually the screen that you would take out of your phone and wrap around your wrist.
Right, just Bluetooth to the computing component, which is your phone.
Right, or it's the actual phone itself that you wrap around your wrist. It's getting it's getting really fucking far out there as far as I'm concerned.
We're slowly becoming T1000. That's what's happening.
No, there's less metal involved.
Right now there is, sir. You wait 15
and by the way,
years.
that was a really shitty server that Sun made. T2000 was much better.
Nice,
It's still a piece
nice.
of crap. Yeah, sorry, I'm flying my geek flag again. I think that you're going to see more and more of the companion pieces come out. You've already got people running around in their Nike shoes and having that stuff come back, biometric feedback or whatever, to their phones. You've got these games like the zombie run game or whatever, where the phone talks to you and tells you about outbreaks and you have to run for your life and all this other kind of crap. I think it's becoming more integral to a lot of the things that we're doing. And I think the biometric piece is where we're going to see a lot more growth. But this idea of like having this wristband, for instance, that you're wearing, and it shows you who's calling, or you can tap it and it shows you the weather or whatever else you want to do without pulling your phone out. I think that's probably the way it's going to be, because we have a much more difficult time if I have to carry two phones, right? Mm-hmm. If I have to carry I have an iPad mini I've got in my back pocket, and then I've got a smaller screen in my hand so I can see what's going on. I mean, that's just dumb. So I think it makes more sense that they're going to have wearables that will be companion pieces and won't be the entire technology themselves. But Google Glass, nah, it's bullshit.
I'm really worried about the invasion of privacy. And I know I had sent you guys a link earlier, but I'm really concerned about it, because I get pissed when I go out with friends now, and somebody takes a picture and puts it on Facebook. Now I got to worry about them looking at me, because I'm afraid they're taking multitude of video.
Are you afraid they're going to steal your soul?
No, I don't have a soul, but I'm worried that they're going to steal my privacy, and I want to keep that to myself. I mean, people already don't.
Or if they log you in somewhere.
Oh God, I hate that.
We're at the movies and they don't even ask you if it's okay to say you're with them.
I hate that. I hate it. I think that's such an invasion of privacy. Just leave me alone. If you want to go check yourself wherever the hell you need to check, because it's very important. I know where you are every minute of every day.
Better check yourself before you wreck yourself.
I just wish they'd wreck themselves and stop bringing me with them. I don't get it. But seriously, I'm worried about privacy, because, right now you can go on any YouTube and you'll see videos that people take of other people.
Sure.
And it's perfectly fine. It's well within the boundaries of the law, so to speak. And you incorporate that with the ability to not be able to differentiate between, is somebody recording me or are they just looking my way? You just multiplied that exponentially, I believe.
Well, at least when somebody holds up their phone, it kind of aims at your direction.
Yeah, I can hit the ground.
You can stop, drop, and roll, and shoulder roll over into some cover. But I think that with us old fogies, this is a genuine concern. But I think that with the kids, quote unquote, I don't think that it's going to bother them. I think they're growing up in a world where everything thing they do is made public, and they're the ones making it public.
Yeah,
I think they're probably going to be just fine with, video footage of them out clubbing or at the mall or whatever being out there, because they're just going to assume I'm being recorded, I'm being photographed at all times.
Makes me nervous as an old fogey, because that's not something that I look forward to in any way, shape, or form. I'll just stay inside. I'll never leave my house. I'll be that guy. Get off
You'll be
my
like the
lawn.
guy up, just blowing up balloons.
Yeah.
Blowing up
Aaron,
balloons.
I think that you have just touched on something.
What's that?
We need
I've been touching on
basically.
something the whole show.
Oh, stop that! Stop touching yourself. I think Google, if you're listening, you fuckers, go back and read A Scanner Darkly and start making scatter suits for us old fucks. So that we can walk around in public without anybody knowing who the fuck we are, and if they take a picture of us, it don't matter.
I'm for it. That I would. I'm for that. If you can make it so I can disappear from your stupid life, that'd be great. Because I don't want to be part of everything you do. It's already bad enough when people are like, "Oh, I woke up and I went to the bathroom and I did laundry and I don't care. Now I got to see it on YouTube every day too." Oh, because it's going to be there in every social atmosphere. It'll be there. Somebody's home movies are going to be part of my life. The only thing I'm looking forward to, and I told Justin this earlier, is amateur porn. It's going to be taken to a new level.
Oh no shit!
The Google glasses.
Yeah. Now we'll see what lines really work.
Now, Aaron,
First-person perspective.
I do want to bring something up to you.
Okay.
You're on a podcast.
I am on a podcast.
It is going to be put out there.
Uh-huh.
People are going to hear your voice. People are going to get inside your brain just by the context of what you're saying and everything else. Therefore, you already have a lack of privacy, and it's all it's all intentional.
That part is true. Yeah, you do put
But at
yourself
least you're
on.
trying to be in control a little bit of what you're putting out there. You edit it. You can put it up. You can take it down. What other people do is totally outside of your control.
This is true.
And that's my main concern, and it even goes to we're all we all are part of a podcast, so I'm sure we've all had listeners that sent requests and whatnot for Facebook or whatever social media you're on, and to that extent, I generally don't do those just because I have kids, and therefore I do that to protect them and whatnot. But once you enter this into it, you no longer have that, like you're talking about. You have no control over it. Somebody just walked into your life and decided where your life is going. And I don't think that's necessarily right. I think there should, if they're going to invent this, and it's great technology, you can't stop it. You need to be with it. You need to do everything you can to help it accelerate. But I also think before you let that become public, there need to be things in place to protect people that don't want to be part of it yet.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be extremely difficult to, really ever get a handle on. I think that's going to be extremely difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's going to happen? What's going to have to happen is basically you're going to have some kind of device on your person that basically makes you just kind of disappear from all this other shit. And I think I was kidding about the scatter suit, but am I really?
I wasn't.
I mean, you think about it, in the movie theaters in some places, they're already putting these screens up that interfere with the ability for the phone to communicate, so that they don't have to have worry about somebody forgetting to turn their phone off. So, I mean, there's going to be some disruption things coming out for the truly paranoid that will do things. I personally would like one where whenever a phone took a picture of me, I just showed up as a huge demon. I think that would be fucking badass. Hey, I took this picture of Paul Cooley and holy shit! Yeah, that would just be
There'll
awesome.
be some technology to go along with Google Glass. You get a chip implanted. There you go. You're a demon or you're a ghost or whatever you want to be.
Well, on that note, let's go ahead and bring this episode of the Hollywood Outsiders After Hours to a close. If you want to check out the website, it's www.thehollywoodoutsiders.com. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/thehollywoodoutsiders. Our Twitter handle is @H_outsider. The email is feedback@thehollywoodoutsiders.com. And you can call and leave us a message or a text at 818-81 I'm a ho, IMAHO.
Oh, we had people ask what the actual number. It's 818-814-6246.
There you go.
Some people, I guess, do not have letters on their phone now. I didn't know that.
I didn't know those existed.
No clue.
Tell your friends, subscribe on iTunes, Zune, listen on your Stitcher Radio app. Give us a thumbs up if you do, or just get us so you're plain old RSS feeder. Paul, thank you for coming on and being a voice for this episode. Why don't you go ahead and let everybody know what you've written, where they can find you if they're interested. And they should be, because I've read several of your stories, and you're a very good writer.
Oh, thank you.
And I don't say that just to blow sunshine up your ass. You're actually a good writer. If I didn't think you were good, I just would have been silent.
And all the people out there wish you had been.
Probably.
You can find me at shadowpublications.com. I'm the author of the... Oh, boy. Everything I've done is Parsec nominated. That's kind of scary.
Oh, nice job.
Parsec finalist novella Tattoo, Closet Treats, and the bunch of short stories. And the latest thing is Garaga's Children Ancients, which is coming out. And it's a collection of 6 different stories that all take place before the Common Era, or for those of you who, aren't hip,
After Jesus.
birth of Christ, so to speak. That's all about a God that may or may not have existed, its children that may or may not have existed, and the people who worship them and people who want to stop them.
Sounds familiar.
Yes. Well, there is that. So anyway, hit me up on shadowpublications.com. I'm Paul_E_Cooley on Twitter. There's a Fiendlings group on Goodreads and Facebook. And, of course, you can always hear me on the Dead Robots Society.
That's right, until your seat blows up and we have to bring in another one.
Yeah, until Justin decides I just pissed him off the one last time, and he sends the bomb blast alert, my chair explodes. Because he's often said the third chair is like being a drummer for Spinal Tap.
Wow. Mm-hmm. That makes people feel good.
Oh, yeah.
So every day's an adventure.
Yeah, let's call it that.
Right. And Aaron, thank you as well for helping me create this show and being a constant voice of opposition to me, though occasionally you agree, and I'm sure it's like acid. It burns.
A little bit. It tingles the taint. Yeah.
But, I'm fine with that.
Imagine that. Justin's all into the taint tickling.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Who isn't?
That's right. All right, folks. Until next time, stay geek strong.